What's going on, people? How y'all doing today? Welcome to Cash Sports. We back at it again, live streaming. We here on another beautiful Monday, ready to talk some NFL. Thank you very much, right? I appreciate it. Right? I don't got nobody in the stream at this moment, but you already know how it is, man. I come here with the energy. I come here. Wanted to talk about the hottest topics and what's been going down this past weekend, especially pertains to NFL football in particular. And that's what this video is about. And so before I get into any topics, I get into any debates in regards to NFL and these games that's just happened previously on Sunday. Please like and subscribe to Cash Sports Podcast. I would graciously appreciate it. Any like and subscribe to Cash Sports would greatly help my platform. And the more support I get from you guys, the more I can have this platform open to the audience so that they can join. We can talk sports. We can debate about the hottest topics. We can debate about games. Every which way imaginable. Also, you guys see that Cash App at the bottom. It's just there for you guys. Well, obviously it's there for me, but it's there in case anybody wants to support the platform. I do any proceeds that I receive from the audience, I do try to use to push my channel and the platform as much as possible, right? So let's get into it. Let's get into some NFL action because there was a lot going down yesterday. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so the first thing I do want to get into is Tony Pollard and the Dallas Cowboys. So the Dallas Cowboys did go against. I'm sorry. My apologies. Sorry, something came up. Okay, all right. Sorry about that, guys. Just need to get myself together a little bit. All right. So the Dallas Cowboys went against the Chicago Bears in Week 8 of the NFL season, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it was predicted that the Cowboys were going to come out with this game. Dak Prescott had his second week returning from hand injury on his throwing hand. In this game, I mean, I think the Dallas Cowboys really they did everything that we thought they were going to do. Might have been a little bit of an overreaction, a little bit more so. Ezekiel Elliott wasn't particularly playing this game, but Tony Pollard. But Tony Pollard had a phenomenal game. He had like 60. Oh, sorry. He's been averaging 5.6 yards per carry, and then because he was injured in that game, he played phenomenally. In that particular game against the Chicago Bears, he had 14 carries for 131 yards and 3 TDs on the ground. Every carry he averaged 9.4 yards per carry. So Tony Pollard had a phenomenal game. I mean, the defense did its thing. In particular, wasn't too great, which is why I would probably give it a little bit of an overreaction. I mean, they were able to let the Bears score 23 points. A team that's 29 points. My bad. A team that's religiously been under on the player props, parlays. I mean, Justin Herbert at some point was under 200 yards for his player prop alone. And then, I mean, he had thrown 151 yards, which is pretty mediocre in today's league. But in his case, though, 151 yards passing is okay. He didn't turn the ball over. He was very efficient. He was 7 for 23 from the passing game. So he played relatively well. Now, if the Chicago Bears maybe had somewhat of a better defense, maybe they could have held down the Dallas Cowboys offense just a little bit more. Maybe if we were to even compare that, I mean, they got outpassed, they got outran, they sacked them more. The Dallas Cowboys defense sacked them 4 times. But the thing what kept Chicago Bears in the game is the fact that they were able to convert on third down and fourth down. They were able to convert on fourth down twice in this game, so that was a big thing. But the Chicago Bears did outrun. I mean, they didn't out the Cowboys did not outrun the Bears because we know the Chicago Bears are a decent enough running team. And that game in particular, they had 240 yards. Justin Fields runs the ball, Montgomery runs the ball, and even you got Hubert, who also ran for 99 rushing yards yesterday. So Chicago Bears, they're a really good rushing team. But when you look at other aspects of their game, I mean, their defense really is a hit or miss. Even though they can get turnovers, and they have been a decent enough pass defense team. But speaking from the quarterback position and just how the Chicago Bears are constructed at this moment, you can clearly see that this team is in a rebuild. But in the Dallas Cowboys case, I mean, you're looking at a team that's looking to contend. I mean, they're clearly in a position to contend. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, yes, wasn't playing yesterday, but just to have Tony Pollard playing the way he had yesterday, having 9 yards per carry, I mean, that was something to see, and even see Dak Prescott, connect with CD Lamb early on. Man, I'm not much of a Dallas Cowboys fan, but at the end of the day, this is just a recipe for success. When you have a really good defense and your running game is moving, and your running game is moving the is moving the ball, and and your quarterback is making less mistakes. I mean, as of right now, they're just going through the motion. I can see this sort of play for the Dallas Cowboys is going to translate well as the season progresses. So for that, I'm just going to leave it right there. Another game, right, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Baltimore Ravens, right? This game, I am sorry. Hold on. All right. Yeah. So in this game, Tom Brady had lost to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had lost to the Baltimore Ravens 27-22. It was a good game. I mean, it went down to the fourth quarter. For much of the game, I believe the Baltimore Ravens were up on this game, but despite everything, the Buccaneers are still the best team in the NFC South. That's at least the way I look at it. And then, so if I'm looking at division right now, I mean, the Falcons were able to grab the lead in the division, being tied for 400, being 4-4, and beating the Carolina Panthers, the last place team in that division, right? Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-5, and they've been having a rough couple weeks as of lately. But you got the Saints. They got a good win against the Las Vegas Raiders, blowing them out, leaving them at zip. But matter of the fact, though, Tom Brady hasn't had a good couple weeks. I know there's been some headlines in regards to his personal life, but the Buccaneers, as of right now, under the regime of Todd Bowles, Tom Brady just doesn't seem, he's getting protected for as long as he could. They're just not getting the running game. They're not establishing the running game early on. I mean, and also last week too, you had some receivers drop some big passes. Tom Brady just isn't getting the throws, making the throws that he would usually make back in his heyday, back in his prime. And so I definitely think there's a lot to be concerned when you're pertaining to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that's kind of contradicting what I said as it pertains to the division. I mean, this division is particularly really weak, so I don't really see much coming out of this division. But I still got to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to still be on top of this division, because I mean, they only have the Panthers, Saints, and Falcons. Neither of those teams I see as playoff teams that can contend for a title. The only team I see that being is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then we're going to start to see more and more of what these teams are looking like later on the season when it starts to get cold in the NFL, right? But even though, despite the Tampa Bay Buccaneers haven't had a great couple weeks, we're going to start to see some things progress here, and I think they're going to start to reveal their true colors. Right. So I'm going to watch out. Next game, right? The New York Jets went up against the the New England Patriots, right? Another matchup that was pretty anticipated as the week was starting to establish. The New York Jets were looking to get a dub against the New England Patriots, a team that's been whooping their butts for as long as I can remember. I believe like when the Patriots win the turnover battle against the New York Jets, the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick are 25-0 against the New York Jets. New England Patriots came out with the win. If you guys want the exact score, it's 22-17, right? Zach Wilson didn't particularly play well. Mac Jones played better than he did last week. He completed 24 passes on 35 attempts for 194 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception with a QBR of 79. But Zach Wilson, he was 20 for 41, 355 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. 2 interceptions being, bonehead decisions. I believe one. I wouldn't even say I believe. I saw it, but one particular interception he was trying to throw out of bounds, but he didn't throw it out of bounds all the way, and then still the guy happened to intercept the ball at the sidelines. And so even though the Jets defense have been playing extremely well, they were going into this week 5-2, looking to catch a dub against division rivals, but they just didn't seem to get that dub in this situation. But one of the biggest things that we got to take away from this game is Zach Wilson. I mean, the New York Jets drafted this guy as the 2nd overall pick. They were pretty convinced, they were very high strung that Zach Wilson was their quarterback, was their guy. And then now there's starting to be some sort of reaction, as it pertains to his play. I mean, he's in the sophomore year of his contract, the sophomore year of his NFL career. And then when games like these, when you're playing against division rivals, when you're playing against the New England Patriots, you got to be able to step up. Got to be able to pull things through. You got to be able to get over humps like this and try to come out with the dub. No matter, you can't be making these sort of mistakes against a team and Bill Belichick, right? A Bill Belichick ran team, because people forget, even going into this week, Bill Belichick still has a really great record against young QBs, right? And so even though coming in, with this defense, they can lock down, they can rush the quarterback. But one thing's for sure, Bill Belichick was definitely wanted to try the New York Jets and pushing them to throw more. And they knew that if Zach Wilson was going to throw more in this game, it was not going to be the game that the Jets would have hoped for. If you guys understand what I'm saying. All right. So next game I want to talk about, or next takeaway I want to talk about, is the Rams versus the 49ers. All right, so the 49ers did look really good. The NFC West will have 2 playoff teams, but the Los Angeles Rams will not be one of them. Now, this is not me saying this. This is ESPN. I'm just kind of reading this one out. I saw this and I thought I wanted to point this out to you guys. So the 49ers beat the Rams last in week 8, 31-34. Jimmy Garoppolo played really well, completed 21 passes on 25 attempts, 2 touchdowns. Even Christian McCaffrey threw a touchdown for 34 yards on a QB pass play. He has a touchdown. He came out with a trifecta in that game. Christian McCaffrey had 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown, and even 1 receiving touchdown. So he was hitting at it from all corners. Also, bad news for the Los Angeles Rams. Cooper Kupp came out with the injury also. So we're going to have to check up on that, see how things look in the near future as pertains to what's going to happen with Cooper Kupp. So the San Francisco 49ers, Deebo Samuel did not play yesterday. I'm very disappointed in my pick, because if I had known that, I would have definitely not pick Christian McCaffrey to be under 15 carries in this game. I know, bonehead decision. I put that thinking Deebo Samuel was going to play, and it bit me in the butt. Bless me. Right? Uh, hey man, I'm live streaming. So, all right. So, with the 49ers, I mean, they're looking good. They have a lot of injuries on the defense, I believe. Check. Let me check to see if they got any injuries before I start yelling out bullshit. Let's see, IR. I mean, we got it. They got a couple guys on the injuries. I mean, I got to check up on the report just to kind of verify. But as of right now, man, I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, they look like a legit team. They look legit. I mean, just with them not even having Debo yesterday, and they were still able to play the Rams like they did in the previous matchup. This win against the Rams makes it their 8th consecutive victory in the regular season against the Los Angeles Rams. So it's looking pretty rough. It's looking really, really rough for the Los Angeles Rams. I can probably even point out some things that, so Matthew Stafford got his own offense rolling and never looked back, winning 31-14 to beat the Rams. Things were looking good Sunday for the defending Super Bowl champs. A ponderous 9-21 first quarter touchdown drive put them on board first against the San Francisco 49ers, and they went back down the field. They went right back down the field to score again after 49ers tied it to make it 14-7. But they still, as you read this, have not scored again. San Francisco dialed up a second half pressure on Matthew Stafford, got his own offense rolling, and never looked back, winning 31-14 to beat the Rams for the second time already this season. LA is 3-4 in the third place in the division, a game and a half behind the first place Seattle Seahawks, and half a game behind the second place San Francisco, and only a half a game in front of fourth place Arizona. Right. I mean, so this is, it's pretty self-explanatory right there. I mean, I think couldn't have said it any better myself. I forgot that Seattle Seahawks are also in that division for a split moment, but the Seattle Seahawks are playing well too. They beat my New York Giants yesterday. They held Saquon Barkley to under 100 total yards. Danny Jones, I think he played well, not great, but I mean, I'll just say well, because at the end of the day, they still didn't win the game, so that was pretty disappointing. And nobody saw the Seahawks playing this well, this good of a football. Oh, this early on in the season. I mean, the fact that they had the element of surprise behind them just gave them a lot more motivation for this season, right? So Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Lockett, Kenneth Walker, all them boys from the Seahawks. I mean, they're playing well, and you got to give kudos to them. But yeah, it's definitely looking like the Los Angeles Rams just really might not go to the Super Bowl this year after winning the Super Bowl, or even go to the playoffs if we're being honest. So that Rams offense is looking putrid. They have to figure something out with that rushing game, and especially with Cooper Kupp out of commission for God knows how long. They're gonna have to find some answers very, very, very quickly. Nothing to the Packers. The Packers need to make a trade for something. I mean, I know some people have been been having some conversation about them making a move at wide receiver, but honestly, I just think it's more than a wide receiver. I just, from the passing game, even to an extent, their defense, I just don't think their pass defense is all that it's cracked up to be. I know Jari Alexander, him and Stephon Diggs were going back and forth before the game, but Stephon Diggs has some things back to say. He explicitly said, hey, they tried to do some chirping before the game, but but he won. The Buffalo Bills won the game, and then so with that being said, I mean, I think they have the last laugh. But when you look at when you look at this Packers defense, when you look at this team, I mean, their offense just looks putrid. For Matt LaFleur, who's had coaching experience in the league. Prior to this, he didn't have a head coaching job, and I think now people are starting to look in his direction about, hey, what can you do with this roster, or even, I just think, bottom line is, I think with the Packers, I think it's just reached a point where it's going to start being a lot of finger blaming or finger pointing. You have this guy saying, "Oh, where's Devontae? Devontae could have been here," and then probably point a finger at Matt LaFleur about, why aren't things working out? Like, what's good with your coaching? And then in another instance, you could be looking at the GM situation with the Packers, and you know, did he do enough to keep Devontae Adams there? A lot could be pointed in the direction of Aaron Rodgers, especially with all the shit that he put us through in the offseason. But given what has happened already now, they gotta just figure something out. We know that OBJ's name was thrown out there, but this team clearly needs something to light them up, to put them in direction that's going to get them back in track to win this division. Because as of right now, at this current moment, the Packers ain't gonna win shit. They ain't gonna go to no playoffs. They ain't even gonna win their division. I'll say that, because as of right now, the Minnesota Vikings are clearly the team to beat, and it's not even close. You hear that? It's not even close, right? But they still have a chance to face. They still have another chance to face each other. So, as soon as the season starts getting a little bit colder, that's when we can start to assess things a little bit more from there, right? Let me see what else I could tap into. I mean, there were a lot of great performances yesterday. A lot of great games. I already talked about my Giants. Giants didn't win all that well, but I can look at some things. Geno Smith still doing it, still leading the league in QBR. He was completed 23 passes for 34, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and had a QBR of 104. And right now, man, I'm telling you, Geno Smith, if you're comparing Geno Smith to Saquon Barkley, I think these are the two guys that are front runners to win comeback player of the year. I mean, this is by far the only two players I would say is in contention to win this award. I mean, there's just nothing left to say. Saquon Barkley has been injured for the past 2 years, hasn't been over 1,000 yards in a season, probably since his rookie year, I believe, or maybe his second year. And even then, he got injured also. Sorry about that, guys. And then now with the situation with Geno Smith, he's been a backup quarterback for much of the part for 10 years. 10 years, right? He was drafted by New York Jets in the second round. I believe he was definitely a New York Giant, if I'm not mistaken. No, he was definitely a New York Giant. I don't know what team he went to after that, but then obviously at some point he ended up a Seattle Seahawk. Right, and so he's been chilling behind Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, he was on his own thing in Seattle. He was alluding to a lot of things, how he wanted more control, how he wanted to be protected more, and things of that nature. And that was the things that was coming out. He gave his agent a list of names of the teams that he would potentially want to be quarterback for, or teams that he would potentially want to play for. And so he got his wish. He ended up on Denver Broncos, and now they look like poo poo. They look like poo poo caca, you know. So, but that with that being said, got to give all praises to Geno Smith, because big respects to Geno. He's the one making it happen. He's the one doing these things. He is the one that's putting this team in the best position possible to win more games, right? Another thing too, right? Baltimore. I already talked about that. Denver Broncos did beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? So since we're talking about Russell Wilson, at least we gotta give him a break in that aspect. He was 18 for 30, 252 yards, one touchdown, one interception. And then Trevor Lawrence didn't play particularly well in this game. Only had 133 yards passing, one touchdowns, and two interceptions with a QBR 52. But the highlight play of this game was Travis Etienne. He had 156 rushing yards and a touchdown, with his longest one being 49 yards. But right now, Travis Etienne is looking like this rushing game for Jacksonville is going to be taken into his hands now. We know that earlier in the week, James Robinson was starting running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but then he was traded to the New York Jets due to Bryce Hall tearing his ACL and having a season-ending injury. So James Robinson, he was doing some things. He made a couple plays. He did have some highlight games earlier in this year. And so to see, Travis Etienne, with the combination of Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence, two guys who played together at Clemson, is going to give some familiarity with that offense. And it's helped to, all this is to help cater to Trevor Lawrence, because clearly Trevor Lawrence is looked at as the franchise QB for this team. And so they have to accommodate him and make sure to put him in the best position possible to win more games. Now they are 2-6. It is his second year. Trevor Lawrence doesn't look particularly great as the season is at this moment, but there's still a lot more season to be played, and he does have a long career ahead of him. So with that being said, we'll see. Okay. Let me see. Oh, okay. This game too. The Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons, right? That was a crazy game. If I'm not mistaken, it did go into overtime. PJ Walker has had two straight games where he's played well. 317 passing yards, one touchdown, one interception. Not the greatest game, but I mean, he didn't play as well as he did last week. He threw more and threw less, but he still had two touchdowns and no interceptions. But Marcus Mariota, we got to give a thumbs up to this guy. I mean, the Falcons offense has been shocking to say the least. He's completed 20 completions out of 28 attempts for 233 passing yards, but had three touchdowns in the air with two interceptions and the QBR 105. All right. Khalif Huntley, 16 carries for 91 yards, no touchdowns on the ground, but Deontay Foreman, he's the guy that's taken the mantle for Christian McCaffrey after the trade, and put up 118 yards and three touchdowns on the ground. So I can't say, I can't blame the Carolina Panthers for moving on from Christian McCaffrey. DJ Moore also made a lot of great plays towards the end of the game, because the Carolina Panthers were down and they were coming back in this game. They came back in this game to tie it up. But the Carolina Panthers just so managed to pull this one. They had a field goal in overtime, and clearly they were able to pull it through, right? Another one. Let me see. All right, so two. We go do three more. Three more games. All right. So the Dolphins versus the Lions, right? Tua Tagovailoa is back. He had a phenomenal game. He was 29 for 36 at 382 yards, three touchdowns, and a QBR of 138.7. So we're starting to see some Crimson Tua now. We're starting to see some Alabama Crimson Tide Tua, if you know what I mean. We're starting to see some flashes there. You know, Jared Goff played better than he did. Um, at least that's how I would say it, even though they lost that game. You know, Raheem Mostert, pretty mediocre with the Miami rushing game, 14 carries, 64 yards, nothing really there. Jamal Williams for the Detroit Lions had two touchdowns, but only rushing for 53 yards. But a lot I can say about these Dolphins receivers because of the addition of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I mean, I believe this wide receiver duo with Tyreek Hill and Waddle. I believe that they have the most yards combined between any other wide receiving group. Now, do I know the particular numbers? Not at the top of my head. I'm just gonna be honest with you. That's just what I heard. Um, on Sunday as I was watching the games, and I'm not surprised though. You know, Tyreek Hill, I believe 3 weeks in, he was leading the league in receptions, or not receptions, in receiving yards. I know Jalen Waddle was up there, but I know 100% that Tyreek Hill was leading the lead in receiving yards. In yesterday's game, he had 12 receptions for 188 yards, no touchdown, but Jalen Waddle had 106 yards with two touchdowns, and then and at the end of the game, uh Jaceki, the tight end, was the one to pull in the game when he touchdown from Tua in the red zone. And so that was able to pull the Miami Dolphins to be 5-3 entering week 9. Right. Another game I'd like to point out also is the Cardinals versus the Vikings. Vikings won this game. They are now 6-1, beating the Arizona Cardinals 34-26. Kirk Cousins had a good game. No turnovers. Completed 24 passes for 36 attempts, 232 yards, and two touchdowns. Kyler Murray also. Had a good game, decent game, but still threw two interceptions, 31 completions on 44 attempts, 326 passing yards with three touchdowns and two interceptions, and a QBR of 95.4. All right. Kyler Murray led the Arizona Cardinals in rushing, but Dalvin Cook was able to pull through with the Vikings, having 20 carries and 111 yards rushing with one touchdown, with his longest run being 30 yards. DeAndre Hopkins, though, now that DeAndre Hopkins is back, this was his second game back after the PED allegations. He pulled in 12 receptions for 159 yards with an average of 13 yards per catch, right? And also had a touchdown. He was targeted 13 times and caught 12 of those 13 passes. So we already know DeAndre Hopkins is back. He's up there. He had a sick ass touchdown, one-handed catch in the end zone that I do recommend for you guys to check out, right? But as it pertains to this team with the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, I don't see them being a first or second place team as it pertains to their own division. I think it's going to be a tough year for them. But with DeAndre Hopkins back in that lineup, we're just going to have to see, how this thing goes down. Justin Jefferson establishing himself as one of the best receivers in the game right now, if not already. He didn't hit the century mark, but he did have 6 receptions and was targeted 8 times for 98 yards, but no touchdowns. All right. I wish I had an audience, a big audience here, so I could choose between which game I should do. But you know what? Let's just do this one. Falcons, Eagles, and Steelers. All right, so Eagles are now 7-0. Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-6. Worst season so far by Mike Tomlin. I know it's a sad thing, but also a great thing to see from the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is definitely one of those quarterbacks that I think is establishing himself as an MVP candidate. Would it be this particular year if he's MVP? Not this year, because we still have those Josh Allen's, those Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to really talk about the Packers and Bills game, honestly. I mean, even though that is a game that I could talk about a little bit more deeply, I just don't want to get too much into the Buffalo Bills. That's nothing really take away. I just think it's another week where the Bills just kind of did their thing. But for the Eagles, I mean, they have a really relatively easy schedule. Miles Sanders had a rush. Had a really good rushing game also. And AJ Brown had 3 touchdowns in the first half. So with the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory that they're going to be in the playoffs and that they're going to win the division. And that's how I see it at this moment. I don't really see them losing up until maybe they go against the Packers, and that is a very, very, very big maybe, right? And I'm just speaking from a competitive standpoint, because the Eagles, just from all around, from passing to rushing, to receivers to pass rush to their pass defense, and then not to mention they just traded for another pass rusher from the Chicago Bears to their team. So right now they're anteing up. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're looking at it from the long haul. They're looking at it from the long-term perspective. They're trying to compete not just this year, but for many years to come, especially to have Jalen Hurts on his rookie deal and still, quote unquote, prove it. Then there's going to be a lot of eyes on this team for a very long time, right? So next week they got the Texans, Commanders, Colts, Packers, and then so it's going to be a very, very easy week, and that's just how I see it. It's just how I see it, right? Okay, so I was just talking to football. I was glad that somebody was able to tune in into the live stream. I do appreciate anybody that does tune in into Cash Sports Podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe to Cash Sports, and also that Cash App at the bottom, rolling from your right to your left. Please donate if you choose. Any donations I would graciously appreciate, because any proceeds that I receive, I will be putting back into to the platform /podcast, right? Usually I would have more people tune into the chat and give their debates, give their topics, but I don't have a lot of people here at the moment, so I'm gonna just keep it here. I'm gonna just keep it humble. Glad I can give you guys some takeaways from for this week. Tonight, if you're watching this a little bit later, sorry about that, but tonight will be the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Cleveland Browns. So going to be excited to see that one. So stay tuned. All right. Thank you all again for tuning into Cash Sports, and have a wonderful day.